Cupra's first ever standalone product. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Stef ABtv and welcome to the Cupra Formentor. Now, this is Cupra's first product which they've launched, which effectively has disconnected itself from Seat. And I have to say, I'm a little confused with it, but at the same time, I actually quite like it. Yeah, let's deep dive into what this thing is, because from the outside, it looks a bit like an SUV slash estate, which has kind of got a little bit confused as to what it is. Now, they say it's its own product. However, immediately I'll talk about what the engine is. This engine is a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo, and by the sound of it and by the way it launches, you'll be very familiar that this engine is also found in the likes of the Golf R, the Audi S3, and now it's made its way into the Cupra Formentor. It does have some punch though, I must say. It runs about 306 horsepower. It will deliver 0 to 62 miles per hour in just 4.9 seconds, and this specific model will cost you around about £40,000. Now, Cupra don't do many options for this. They've pretty much given you as much as you can for the money. And that's one of the things that Cupra slash Seat tried to do. They tried to give you value where places like Audi, VW, they tend to just charge you an arm and a leg for options. But I do want to give that launch one more go, because I mean, it's flipping good. And that's one of the things, it has a 7-speed DSG gearboxes, and for those of you who do have Golf Rs or have driven Golf Rs or the Audi S3, you'll be very familiar with just how good the acceleration is on this. I mean, the launch controls on these DSGs are pretty much spot on. They are very, very good. I'll tell you what, it does have a very, very high amount of low-end torque, and that's what you get from this brilliant 2-litre turbocharged engine, which is very, very familiar. Top speed on this is limited to 155 miles an hour, and if you drive it reasonably, it'll also deliver 31.4 miles per gallon, which isn't bad. Of course, we get 4-wheel drive on this thing, which means even though the roads are icy, greasy, we get untold amount of grip, although as you saw earlier on the launch, we still did manage to light up all 4 wheels. Now let's talk about sound, because sound is interesting, and I think I said this in my Audi S3 video, because the 2021 Audi S3 has the same engine as this. This car, ironically, it sounds like it's got a 5-cylinder. Listen. It's almost like that kind of Audi enhanced sound that's pumped through the cabin reigns true in this as well. But it's interesting because there's also been rumours, and actually, well, not rumours, it's actually been spotted that there has been a 5-cylinder Cupra Formentor floating around the Nürburgring. So they are going to potentially be bringing out a 5-cylinder model of this, which is effectively, what will they call it? Will they call it the Cupra Formentor RS? Who knows? How I feel about that? I'll reserve my judgment till I see it, but does that effectively dilute the RS3 and the TTRS? Not sure. Now, in terms of kind of driving modes, now this has plenty of driving modes. This car has about 5 different driving modes. It's got a kind of individual, which you can set everything yourself. You've got an off-road, you've got a road, you've got a sport, and you've got a Cupra mode, which is what we're in now, which is the kind of most aggressive. As you can see, I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit, and that's because this does come with adaptive dampers. And in the Cupra setting, arguably, it's actually a little bit stiff. It is actually a little bit stiff, but I think that's good because it means that the handling on this thing is actually decent. That pickup is brilliant, isn't it? It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and I think, and also if I use this little button here and I move back into the road mode, you can hear that all that noise, that fake noise, is very much reduced, and it gives you more of a true sound as to what this car actually is. Oh, massive puddle, massive puddle. Brakes are good too. I mean, look at this, flipping out, it's like we've had a flood. Now, you can see what I mean around, it's not really sure if it's an SUV or a jacked up estate, right? But I will say I do kind of like it. I think its design is quite funky, it's quite quirky. It almost has a bit of an Audi A6 all-road feel to it, if that makes sense. But in terms of what you get, let's start at the front. Now, starting at the front, you'll first see, with all Cupra models, is you get this kind of Transformer style emblem on the front. And all of the Cupra cars come with this kind of bronze accent. Now, some people have said that it looks a little tacky. In my opinion, I like it. I think it's unique, it's different. Now, of course, this car is in black and we get some kind of grey accents along the side. In terms of the shape of the front, I think it looks quite aggressive. I also like the LED lights as well. I think they look very, very cool. Of course, very Audi inspired, as you'd expect from something like the VW group. Now, in terms of the rear, I think this is where the car, I think it almost looks its best. I think it looks very, very funky. You can see that the kind of lines on this car are very, very sharp, and you get this very nice kind of light bar as well, which at night looks super cool. So, you know, the light literally goes the whole way. So it is quite confusing because you could quite mistake this on a night drive for something like an Audi e-tron or even the new Porsche Macans. But of course, being the Cupra model of the Formentor, we get the quad exhaust pipe. We also get a relatively aggressive rear diffuser. In terms of the kind of front landing gear, if you like, you get 19-inch wheels. These do have Bridgestone tyres on, but they do a good job of delivering good grip. Also, you can see the bronze accents on the wheels. This specific model doesn't have the Brembo calipers on there, but I have seen them with Brembos, and I'm assuming that's something that you can spec in. You get a very nice electric tailgate, but in terms of the boot space itself, it's a decent sized boot, and actually when you fold the rear seats down, you get ample space. Now, this is where it gets interesting for me, because in terms of the interior of this Cupra Formentor, I absolutely love it. Now, it may not be to everyone's taste, but that kind of bronze theme continues as it does in all Cupra cars, but we get, for me, lovely, lovely blue and bronze interior, and I think it really works. The seats themselves are brilliant. From a driver's perspective and even a passenger's perspective, they're very, very comfortable. They are, of course, heated. They have really good bolstering here on the side, so when you are throwing this around, particularly in the Cupra mode that I mentioned earlier, whilst it may be very stiff and very kind of bumpy, etc., these seats hug you very, very well. And we get things such as heated steering. There's two settings on that, so you kind of have a low and a medium heat. We get the drive selector button here, your engine start stop, and of course, being VW Group, you also have the luxury of the virtual cockpit with plenty of views to see, you know, to customize yourself. But for me, the massive thing, the real big thing, and the kind of focal point of this car, the thing that stands out like a sore thumb, is this thing. Now, I like it, I like the concept of it, but it's a little bit difficult to get your head around. Once you know it, you'll be fine. But the problem with this, and this is the challenge that I find with a lot of these newer cars, is that everything's kind of done via the touchscreen, which means that actually you need to focus so much on this, and when you're driving, it could probably prove a little bit dangerous. Of course, we got these very nice kind of sliders here to control the climate control, which I do like. I have wireless Apple CarPlay on this, that's very nice, of course. Interestingly, it's a 12-inch screen, but the CarPlay doesn't fully take the entire screen. If I go back to the car, you've got very kind of cool things. As I mentioned, the driver profile, you've got your choice here of comfort, sport, Cupra, individual and off-road. If you go into the individual mode, you select the configurator, it gives you the, you know, you can select the DSC shift, you can select, you know, your all-wheel drive settings, how aggressive you want it to be, your steering, your engine sound even, which is kind of that fake pumped in noise, if you like. You've got plenty of customization here. The sat nav itself, it's not the greatest in terms of its kind of quality. I would have loved to have seen some Google Maps in here personally, but that's what Apple CarPlay is for. But it's a very large touchscreen, and you got your media, you got all that kind of fun stuff here. You got your phone, and then you got your car infotainment system as well, so all your driving data, whatever it is that you want. As you can see, I'm averaging 12.8 miles per gallon, but that's what you tend to get from a car review. We get wireless charging, we've got 2 USB-C ports, and as you can see, if you don't have a USB-C cable, you need to use the USB adapter, which isn't the end of the world. We get 2 kind of very nice kind of places here to either hold your phone or your keys, 2 reasonably sized cup holders. We get some nice space in here with an also another 12-volt battery socket. In terms of the build quality itself, it's reasonably good. It's actually quite good for the price point as well. Obviously it's not Audi, but you know, you do get some cheapo plastic. I mean, this thing here is cool. I like the kind of gear selector, but I would like to see a nicer finish on this, if I'm honest with you. Also, there's a couple of the cheapo plastics in here that you'd expect to find, but overall for the money, I think there's a lot of value in this car. Space in the back is also decent. I mean, I'm 6'1" and I tend to have my driving position quite far back, but actually I've got plenty of leg room here as well, which is really good. Of course, at the back you also get 2 USB-C ports. You get kind of your own climate control here at the back, and actually these seats are really nice at the back too. In terms of the headroom, I've still got a decent amount of headroom, and being kind of not a full SUV and being a bit slanted at the back, you'd think that actually that would compromise the rear comfort for passengers, but actually it's really good. So then, to summarise, what do we think of the Cupra Formentor? Look, I actually really like it. I think it's a really good looking car, particularly from the front. I do still stand by the fact that I think it's a little bit confused as to what it's trying to be, but in terms of performance, spot on. Sound itself is decent, although the interior sound is a little bit too fake pumped for my liking. It sounds too much like an RS car and a 5-cylinder. But although I'm looking forward to see if they actually produce a 5-cylinder one of these, although I'm still in 2 minds whether I agree with it or not. Styling, I think it looks great. I think it's a very cool new product. I love the light bar. Interior for me is an absolute winner. It's my favourite part of the car, and value for money, you can't really go wrong. I like the fact that you get so much from this car at a reasonable price point. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Make sure to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you all very soon on the next one. See you later guys, bye bye.